What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So if you saw my last video, you saw that I drove halfway across the country and picked up a couple things, one of them being a welder, a plasma cutter, and a welding bench. So today's video, we're going to be diving into the welding bench. So I actually started this project a day or two ago and spent about an hour or two on it, and I didn't realize, but the GoPro been having some issues. It was and was not recording, so I'm gonna play today like we're starting at square one, and I will drop in some pictures of the progress I took the other day. But let me give you guys a quick tour of the workbench, let you know what my plans are, and let's roll right into it. So this here is the welding bench. This was previously used at my dad's old fab shop where he used to make some real estate material, scroll brackets, signposts, stuff like that. So what we did the other day is we built this shelf. It is out of 1.5 by 1.5 angle stock, and what we're going to be doing today is building an identical shelf for the plasma cutter, and also I'm going to be building a little platform here for the welding tank. I'm running 75-25 argon CO2. And then once we're done with this, we're going to strip everything down. We're going to sand it, wire brush it, and get it painted. So that way, once we're done with this project, we can actually move on to building the run stand for the old 12 valve. So the dimensions I'm working with are basically a 22 by 22 box. So 22 fits the perfect width of the space I have available, and then 22 inches is actually a few inches shy of the actual workbench, but it's nice because that way my shins aren't whacking into it. So what I'm going to do here is make 4 22-inch measurements. We're going to set the saw up on a 45-degree angle, make all my 45-degree cuts, tack it together, and make sure we're square, and then we'll weld it into place. Then get it welded to the workbench. So now I'm just going to whack down all these edges, make them nice and soft, get rid of any cut burrs, and make it a little easier to handle, a little easier to weld. There's my other glove. There it is. I also just realized this whole time I was cutting, I was shooting sparks towards a propane tank. Gotta say, these flapper discs make quick work of this stuff. Get this thing squared up, tacked up, and see how it fits. So to hold these things in place, I got these cool magnets. Yes, welder. I got these on Amazon for Black Friday. I think I paid 30 bucks for these, plus some really big ones. I think these are 3-inch. I have some more in there that are 4 or 5. They're real heavy duty, but the magnet's actually so strong, if you're too close to your weld, it's going to mess up your weld. So what I'm going to do now is just plop in some of these angle magnets, try to get it as square as possible, make some measurements, see if I need to grind anything down. If it exceeds 22 inches exact going in this direction, it's not a big deal. If it exceeds 22 inches, the width of the table, I'm going to have to shorten it because that slot, and I'll show you later, is exactly 22. So sometimes I might find myself just turning this thing 90 degrees if it's longer one way than the other. But as of now, yeah, we're 22, pretty 22 on the money. I think I'm going to have to, yeah, this one's 22 and an eighth. So we'll try to get it tacked up. We'll favor one side that's closer to 22, and that will be my width ends. And we'll use this guy just to make sure our outside edges are true. So I can tell already, as is, which is pretty square, these ends right here are going to be the areas I weld to the bench. So what I'm going to do now is make sure the outside angles are all pretty square, and I'm going to tack these, get the magnets out of the way, and then actually put some decent beads on it. One thing I'll show you later what I'm going to do is, right now, because this top surface of this table is painted, I'm unable to just ground the table from my ground clamp to my material. Instead, I could do it directly, which isn't the end of the world, but when I'm working with small stuff, the weight of this thing will actually tip your material over or move it. So when we're all done and this is all painted, I'm going to get a fresh flapper disc blade, and I'm going to clear this whole top table up. Probably lightly coat it in WD so it's not rusting too much, and then I'll be able to just clamp this somewhere underneath, and that way I never have to worry about this. And same goes for the plasma cutter. But for now, we are just going to be clamping the material, which is no big deal because this stuff's pretty big and the magnets are holding it in. So, I'm going to take these magnets out and just double check my measurements here. Yeah, we're at 22 and an eighth all the way down. This side, right, 22, actually probably 21 and 15 sixteenths, which is good. So, take these guys out. What did I do on this one? Did I run tacks? Yeah. So probably run some tacks in here, and the actual beads will be up the sides. Oops. Alright, I'm just going to clean up these edges. Try to soften up the corners. I do have a 2-year-old, and these are at, holy crap, look at my finger. So I took a pretty good chunk out of my finger here. Yeah. I have a 2-year-old who is at the age where he wants to touch everything, and this is perfect. I want to touch height, so I'm going to get rid of all the sharp edges and grind down the welds a little bit and do something about my finger. Classic. Okay, we're back from the nurse's station. Let's clean up these edges. Hopefully this fits in my glove. I didn't even know when that steel fell. It must have whacked me pretty good. I imagine that that finger of that glove has got a nice little puddle of blood in it, but again. Okay. Nice and soft. Alright, so now I just got to get underneath the bench, clear off some paint to where I plan on welding this thing in, and we'll get back to welding. There actually is a little bead here from, must have been when they welded this thing during assembly. And I have a feeling that's going to be in the way, but we'll test fit this thing. If it needs to be grinded down, we'll grind it down, but if not, we're going to keep rolling. So yeah, that little bead's going to come out. Switch discs and get after it. Gloves, baby. Alright, we'll take some measurements. I guess I can go off the other one, so that way it looks a little uniform even if it's not center. Alright, let's tack this baby up. There. So the next part of this, I'm sure as you saw earlier, you saw me lugging around my gas tank, which ideally I'd like to have attached. Now I wish I could lay the bottle down. That would make life a lot easier. Research online obviously says not to do it. Guys do it, but if you want the best results, you want it standing upright. So the other day when I thought the GoPro was recording, I built this. This is going to be the shelf in which the bottom of the tank fits on. And the idea is to have it about 1.5 to 2 inches off the ground for getting over my threshold to bring the welding bench inside. I'll probably run some angle steel down so it wraps around this corner, weld it to this guy, and maybe some gussets that I'll weld from this outside, these forward corners, up to here just to give it some strength. Bottle weighs, I think, 50 or 60 pounds, so I want to make it as strong as I can. And then up here somewhere, I'm going to do a chain that wraps around just for ease of securing and removal when I got to get it in place. So let's get going on that. So this right here will give me my 1.5 inches that I need. That should be enough to clear the threshold. So what I'm thinking is, now these are just some scrap pieces that I have kicking around from the long lengths, but we're looking at doing something like this. Obviously I gotta cut these pieces to size, but we'll do that. Maybe give myself a 45 on this way so we don't have any hard corners for the little guy. And yeah, I like that already. How thick is this? It's kind of thin. I might not be able to put too much heat on those welds, but we will certainly find out. And then, like I said, I'll probably get some flat stock and run this edge either up to here or up to here just to give me a little more strength. But I like where this is going, so I'm going to get the old chalk sticks out, make some measurements, start cutting. So, just like everything else, soften up these edges. And I'm also going to soften up all the edges on this bracket or shelf that I made the other day. So we're going to be looking something like that. And this side will be up against the bench. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tack these, try to get them as square as I could. I'm going to knock that weld down in there to get a good corner, and then we'll move on to mounting it. Nice. So I'm obviously going to have to take this thing off. This used to be for some pins that you drop down in there if you ever wanted to drill some holes in your concrete. It would keep the table from moving around. But I don't plan on putting any holes in my ground, and if I do, I'll decide on that later. But I'll take this out if I can relocate it another day, put one on each side. But for now, this is going to come off. This little tab has to come off, and then we can work on figuring out what we want to do for brackets here, and we'll just keep rolling. It. This corner is a little high, so I'm gonna put the grinder to it, soften these edges a little bit, but then I'll have some great welding surface here, and we'll just keep chugging. And And also I gotta finish welding on the inside of here, so. Let's mount it. Oh yeah, I don't even think I need a bracket. About 170 pounds, she's holding good. Nice, that's material I could use. So now I gotta figure, how am I gonna use this chain to attach here to be able to make it a quick release to wrap around the tank and secure it. So might be a little hard to understand until you actually see it. I might not do the best job of explaining, but essentially I'm going to cut this down into a 1-inch piece. There'll be one on each side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld it on each side flat facing out. And what I'm going to do is, imagine that this piece doesn't have a top. I'm going to do a notch. So I'm going to take a box out of the side that's going to be up against the post. And my thought process, which this will be through trial and error, is that, as you can see, what I plan to remove, this will just slide over the material that is left, wrap around the tank, do the same thing on the other side. So we'll get some pieces cut up, get the C-clamps out here, and start cutting them up with the grinder. So it made more sense to me to notch these pieces while it's long, so I'm not dealing with some tiny pieces here. So plan is, we're gonna mark 1 inch back, run that straight across, and then we're gonna split that distance. I might take a little more than half, but this is roughly, we're taking all this off here. And just by eyeballing this chain, it's looking like I'm gonna have plenty of room to grab. And then I'll do the same on the other side, or after I cut it. And yeah, let's get to grinding. that chain actually falls down these nice. Oh yeah. Love it. Love it. Alright, so let's mock up this tank in place. And let's find a good height to weld these on. What do you think? Any higher, I don't want to lose this thing on the angle of the tank. Any lower, you're not really doing yourself any good. So I think we got ourselves a pretty good point right here. I'm gonna go ahead and score it and then mark it. So I'll call these ears. They get tacked on like so, and I like it. I think it looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of some of this paint, get some of the scale off of this guy, and get them installed. I got these kind of mocked up in place with the magnets. I'm just going to throw the tank on real quick. Before I weld it, just make sure I got adequate chain length, and we'll start tacking it in. Oh yeah, freaking golden. Plan with these for welding, since it's such thin material, is I'm just going to lay a couple decent tacks. Probably do about 3 or 4 on each ear. So I don't want to blow through this. So I think I'm done welding for the day. I got some plywood in the back of the truck. I'm gonna rip out 2 22 by 22 inch pieces for the shelves. I'm gonna actually get the welder moved over to this side so it's closer to the gas. And ultimately, I'm gonna wire brush this entire thing, try to get as much surface rust and scale off, and I'm gonna paint it. Painting it with what they consider heavy rust primer, but I'm going to try to make sure there is no heavy rust, and then I'm going to hit it with a nice gray paint afterwards. When I'm done, I'm not going to worry too much about masking this upper surface, because once it is painted, I'm going to get the brand new flapper disc on here and just clean this whole thing up, so that way I can be grounded to the table. And actually, now that I mentioned being grounded to the table, I do have to clean up some material under there so I can put my ground clamps to it. But other than that, we're going to start cutting some wood and then painting. Alright, we're back. It's been 24 hours since we gave our first coat of the primer. This here is what I used. As you can see, it says used on heavily rusted metal for the ultimate finish. So weren't super rusty, but I wanted to have the most protection, especially on the base coat on top of some of that untreated metal. And today we're going to be applying the final coat and hopefully getting around to cutting that wood. And then if it dries in time, we'll piece this thing back together, strip the top, put everything installed, and we'll be done with this project. For the rest of this, I'm using an Ace brand Rust Stop. And this is an oil base, and as you can see, it's my favorite color, gray. So let's get going on this and wrap this project up. So, able to get 2 coats on here. Did the first coat upside down, flipped it back over, and was able to kind of get a second coat, touching up some spots as well. And super happy with how this is turning out. As it dries, it's having a nice glossiness to it. So, what we're gonna do next is get some wood cut up, put these shelves in, and start putting all the gear back together. So here we have finished product. So obviously going to do a little cable and hose management, but this is exactly what I was shooting for, and really excited to have this project done. And now that it is done, next we start on the engine stand. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you guys next time.